strong energy bill. When I became governor, Ohio had, well, it was among the weakest renewable standards in the nation because we simply didn't have a standard. And we passed an energy bill that requires that 25% of all the electricity sold in Ohio by the year 2025 must come from renewable resources or advanced technologies, and half of that number must come from renewable resources. Now that's significant. Why is that significant? You know, to have such a standard in Wisconsin or in Montana may not mean so much, because there are not a lot of people in Montana. They don't use a lot of energy in Montana. But we are a huge energy consuming state. And it's also significant because we are a state that gets currently about 90% of its electricity from coal. And now we're starting to see investments in wind power and solar power. I believe Ohio is going to have the first freshwater wind farm in North America, in the waters of Lake Erie. 5 turbines have already been ordered from GE, which will be the demonstration turbines that will be placed between 6 and 7 miles out into the water. We're seeing investments in solar power. I just went to the switching on of Ohio's largest solar field near Upper Sandusky a couple of weeks ago. 85 acres completely covered with solar panels, all of them made in Perrysburg, Ohio. I was in San Francisco a couple of weeks ago, and I met with a company that's looking at the possibility of a larger solar farm in Delaware County. In Delaware County. So, we're starting to see some major investments being made. We're on our way. And in the middle of all this, I have been true to the 205 tax reforms that were passed before I became governor under Bob Taft and the Republican legislature. We have, contrary to what John Kasich says, we have the most competitive business tax system in the Midwest. The most, that is the result of external observers. That's not just my opinion. And by the way, we also have a very good regulatory system that we'll continue to work on and improve. But let me tell you about my opponent. He worked on Wall Street, right? Well, first of all, he was a congressman for 18 years. I was there for 12 years. We both have records. One of the things that happens when you're in Congress, you establish records. He voted for NAFTA and most favored nation trade status for China. I voted against those. But what really disturbs me, perhaps more than those particular votes, was that he also sought to eliminate trade adjustment assistance, the very program that was created to assist workers who had lost their jobs because of trade. He wanted to eliminate that program. He voted against increasing the minimum wage. I mean, he's got a big record. I have a big record too. You know, I'm sure they'll both be talked about. But then he went to Wall Street. He went to work for Lehman Brothers. He became a managing director for Lehman Brothers. We know that he actually, at least on a few occasions, approached our public pension systems regarding investing with Lehman Brothers. Lehman Brothers went bankrupt September the 15th, 2008. We're approaching the 2-year anniversary. In fact, our first debate is on September the 14th, on the eve of the 2nd anniversary. When Lehman Brothers went bankrupt, Ohio's public pensions lost, as best we can calculate, over $400 million. As teachers and fire and police and so on. What happened to Mr. Kasich in 2008? The only year that he allows anyone to have any access to his tax records, he received a bonus in addition to his salary, he received a bonus of over $400,000. That seems incongruous to me. You know, a company's going into bankruptcy. Well, what have you done to earn a bonus? But he says, you know, that we have an onerous regulatory system in Ohio that's driving jobs out of Ohio. Well, I think he spent so much time on Wall Street that he hasn't paid attention to what I've been doing. Because I signed an executive order regarding regulatory changes. Before I did that, I conferred with every major business group in Ohio, asked for their advice as to how we could change, what we could do to make Ohio more friendly to business investment and growth. And yet he says we have a terrible regulatory system that's driving jobs out of Ohio. So I just happened to bring with me today a list of the business groups that stood with me in the cabinet room the day I signed the executive order, which has resulted in us eliminating over 200 rules and regulations and modifying a couple of thousand more. And these are the groups that stood with me in support of my executive order. The Ohio Chamber of Commerce. That's a socialist group. The Ohio Manufacturers Association. And this one will just really surprise you, the NFIB. The Ohio Business Roundtable, the Farm Bureau, the Ohio Hospital Association, the Ohio Bankers League, the Ohio Council of Retail Merchants, Ohio Grocers Association, the Realtors, the Ohio Chemistry Technology Council, and consulted but not at the signing, the Ohio Restaurant Association and the Ohio State Bar Association. All of those groups felt like what we had done with regulations was pretty good. Maybe not perfect. We may need to do more, but we certainly haven't just sat back and neglected to deal with that. Now, I understand today that he had a press conference to talk about workforce training. I said it's the second episode of CSI, copying Strickland's ideas. Because nearly everything that he says he wants to do with workforce training, we've already done, or tried to do, and found it blocked by the Republican Senate. And so, I don't know why he's so critical of me as governor, because, you know, he seems to want to copy my ideas. So, you know, we'll have a chance to talk about some of these things in the next 7 or 8 weeks. Let me tell you something else that my opponent did that really troubles me. And I think it gets to the basic difference between the two of us. And this may sound very personal, and it may be. But quite frankly, this is an important office, and when it comes right down to it, I think what's more important than how me or John Kasich feels about any particular public policy idea, what's more important than that is what kind of judgment we have, what kind of values we embrace, what kind of priorities we set or will set for the state. And I just really think that that Mr. Kasich is an individual who believes that there are two sets of rules. One set of rules that apply to him, and another set of rules that he wants to apply to everyone else. I think that's reflected in the fact that he took a $400,000 bonus when his company was going into bankruptcy. I think it's reflected in the fact that he refuses to reveal his income tax returns, but when he ran for Congress against Congressman Szymanski, he demanded that Congressman Szymanski release his income tax returns. So this year, he's only willing to let a few reporters come in and spend, I don't know, I'm told it was about 15 or 20 minutes looking at the 08 reports. taking nothing with him and having no idea what his other tax returns may show. One of the things we found out, though, that enhances my feeling that he has two sets of rules, one for him and one for everybody else, was something that we found out as a report he had to make regarding his work with Lehman Brothers. And it was about an arrangement he had with Ohio State University.